So where does that leave us, right? There are two things you really need to focus on, is the idea and the product. And strangely enough, there is actually, as we were sort of talking about earlier before, there's a simple solution and a simple approach to building a $1 billion app. Very, very straightforward. I'll show it to you on this slide. There's a big red line here. Come up with a great idea. Okay, so, we've all got great ideas, but we need to validate these things. How do we validate them? Take them out to real users. The amount of startups that I talk to in the US and in other places, whether it be the UK or France, especially talented developers, don't take their ideas to real people. Take your idea and validate it. The rule of thumb I use, and it sounds ridiculous, is talk to 500 people who would be users of your app, website, whatever your service is, and get their real honest feedback. Make sure it's not friends or family, because they'll tell you nice things, and they'll tell you bullshit that you don't need to hear. Go talk to people who would really be users, who don't care about you. Get real feedback, and you have to do that. And that doesn't require money, that doesn't require anything except time. The next bit is, especially on the mobile level, sure. That is a good sample size. And you know what? It's really hard to find 500 people to talk to, which means you need to go out there, and whether it's in Starbucks on the corner or whether it's hassling people on the corner of the street, it means you need to have the confidence to go out there and talk to them. And that is a really interesting process, because not only is it just going out there, but you've probably got 5, 10, 15 seconds to engage someone, which means your pitch about what you're actually trying to sell has to be pretty good and has to be pretty clear, which means it has to be clear in your head. But more importantly, when you think about the world in general and people talking to each other, if an app is doing really well and people want to spread it kind of via word of mouth, they need to be able to convince someone in 1 or 2 sentences, wow, you should check out this app because of this reason, download it, it does that. If you can't synthesize that and get feedback on that idea, then it's not going to work in the real world. And I use the number 500 because it's a good month's worth of work. You do about 100 a week, 25, 20 people a day, you'll be worn out. But the amount of data that you'll have, and usually the first, second, third time people will shoot it down and destroy it, you'll be like, good, I'm really happy I didn't spend any time designing that, building that, spending money on contractors, or wasting my time because the idea was rubbish. But the converse is also true, is the moment your idea is really good, you get to the point 3 of that place where you're like, actually, you know what? I'm really confident in this idea. I know how to pitch it. I know how to pitch it succinctly. Now I can start translating it into a design of some sort. Use Photoshop, use PowerPoint, sketch it up, mock it up, and then kind of repeat that process again. Take that out to new people and be like, look, can I waste 5 minutes of your time? Can I buy you a coffee? Can I buy you a cup of tea? Can you check out these pieces of paper? Here are my designs, or better than that is, use Dropbox, share screenshots. Most people start playing around with your screenshots thinking it's an app. We spent the first 2 months of our new company building screenshots and testing it with about 2,000 people. And the feedback that we got on that was sensational. They were like, this is shit. This doesn't make sense. Why would I use this? Don't understand this language. Doesn't it look like this app? No, it's more like WhatsApp. That doesn't work. We're like, good. We didn't spend 20,000 on developers. We spent a few hundred on designers and getting to a point where all of a sudden the screenshots were really logical. And people are like, oh, that makes sense. And if I do this, oh, it does that. Great, love it. When can I have it? And you're like, oh, yeah, we haven't actually built it yet. But at least you're ready to build the right thing. The big bit, this big, huge red line, this is what guys in Silicon Valley do well. This is why you're here. You're here to learn one thing, which is how to cross that red line. And no one does this particularly well except here. And even here, there's only a few people who do this well. Kevin Systrom, when he was building Instagram, his product Bourbon, which was, hey, check into places, find local places that are interesting, didn't get anywhere near to crossing that line. He didn't get what's called product market fit, which is basically, I'm creating a solution, I'm creating an app, I'm creating a website for this group of users. Do those users love my product so much that if I took it away tomorrow, 50% of them would be upset? So that's the metric to think about. Are you making 50% of people upset? Or if it went away tomorrow, would anyone even remember? Would they even care? If the answer is they don't care, it means you're building something that's useless. And that's the long and the short of it. Because if you can't cross that line with something that people love, you're going to be spending a lot of time convincing people by being a good salesman that they should invest in your company, work for your company, and they should give you money for your company. And that's great. There are lots of us who are really good salespeople who can do that. But the problem is, you go raise a couple $1 million, how are you going to get users to use your product? You can't convince users to use a product that's average. The market's too competitive. So this is the formula to make it a roaring success for something that makes millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. Your question that you need to ask yourself is, do I want to turn that into a business or create a great app or to create a great website? Creating a great website or a great app is perfectly fantastic. But, will it ever make enough money to support 100 employees? It really depends on what you want to do. So that is simply a question of scale. And it's a question of, B2B as well. If you go down the B2B route and you're creating more enterprise type stuff, you probably don't need millions of users. You need thousands of users and thousands of loyal users. If you look at the way Slack has been going recently, they're raising at $1 billion as well for a corporate internal communications tool, which is great, but they've been around for years. And it took them a long time to get that product market fit, whether they were too early or the market is only coming now. It's one of those opportunities. It depends what you want. Going big is not necessarily the best thing. It's complicated, it's a long process, there's lots of ways to fail. Frankly, exiting for a smaller amount of money with a small, really healthy, profitable app is probably a better option. But we're talking about something slightly different. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a great option. Once you cross that point and you've got something that people really love, that they're pulling for, that they're yearning for, that is really when viral marketing, word of mouth really comes into play. And that's where it's all about scaling and the sort of magical word of really turning your users into customers somehow. Some companies achieve this by themselves. And interestingly, all the accounts of WhatsApp and its 450 million active users, yesterday Facebook published the financial results, including the financial results for WhatsApp for last year. $20 million in revenue. For a company that has the worldwide volume of SMS equivalent to every single telco, telcos make a lot of money off SMS. That company made 20 million bucks in revenue. Granted, they only have 55 employees, which is fine, but it's not the most valuable proposition. It pays its bills. Was it worth $20 billion?